pausing 24 and 48 to make my weekly video. Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for January 20th to 26th. This week I read 3 books, I watched 2 shows, I listened to 2 podcasts, and I listened to 1 book. As I just mentioned, I'm smack dab in the middle of 24 and 48. I'm 19 hours into the readathon. I need to read 5 more hours in the next 9 hours type of thing, so I'm gonna try to probably keep this brief because I still need to, edit this, upload it, caption it, and finish my readathon at the same time. The first 2 books I will talk about together, it's Soulless and Solace, the manga by Gail Carriger. I was actually given each of these books quite separately. The manga I got first, and I actually got it from the book swapathon not last year but the year before, and then Soulless I actually picked up as my book swap book at BookNet Fest. So I read Soulless first. It was on my list for read yo shelves. There's a space that's choose your own category and I chose something preposterous, and the synopsis of this seems quite preposterous. It's steampunk, it has to do with vampires, it has to do with werewolves, it's kind of Victorian England era, and it has to do with a girl who is a spinster, half Italian, with a dead father. This is the beginning of a series and I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to have to read the rest of the series now. It's super fun. Basically, Alexia goes to a ball and they said they were going to serve food and they weren't serving food, so she goes to the library to read a book and have some tea, and a vampire just up and attacks her, which is not usual protocol, and he accidentally ends up dead because he attacks her again. So she's drawn into this investigation as to why this vampire is doing this thing, because it's not a usual thing in their society, and the investigation is headed by this werewolf who, you learn pretty soon off, has a thing for her. It's a hate to love, it's wonderful, it's delightful. If any of this has sounded good to you and you haven't read these yet, definitely do. Basically, as soon as I finished the novel, I picked up the manga and went through, and a lot of it is the exact same dialogue, which makes a lot of sense, and it was fun to put pictures to what was going on. If you've read one but not the other, I highly suggest reading both because they're both a really good time. The other book I read this week I actually just finished on Friday night during the beginning of the 24 and 48 readathon, and that is Reconstructing Amelia by Kimberly McCreight. This one is about a woman who works as a lawyer and her 15-year-old daughter. Mother is at work when she gets a call from her daughter's school saying her daughter, who is an overachiever and an athlete and an all-around great person, has been caught cheating, which doesn't make any sense. However, by the time her mom actually gets to her school to pick her up, she's dead. Basically, this title comes from trying to figure out how this happened, and there are so many twists and turns in this as to why this child ended up dead, and there's so much grief, obviously, because it's a single mother trying to find out why her daughter is dead after she's already sort of processed that she might have done it herself. This book was an absolutely delightful way to start off the readathon because I'm not really enjoying the book that I'm physically reading right now, but I'm getting through it because the readathon is making me, and also I need to if I want to black out the entire bingo board for read yo shelves, so that's happening. As for what I watched this week, obviously there was some more Survivor. That idol came up that was a fake idol, so that whole thing happened, which was very, very funny to watch. And then the friend I watched The Walking Dead with moved back into the country, so we watched the first 8 episodes of the 8th season of Walking Dead, which I swear has taken place over about the space of a day, maybe 2 at this point, and I'm really enjoying it. Obviously this show is always very highly fraught and there's always a lot of shit going down. The only thing I can really complain about at this point is the cinematographer just really likes having these sequences of just like close-ups of people's faces near the beginning and near the end of the episodes, and I don't really know what's going on there, if they were just trying to fill out the 42-minute requirement for television or if they were just trying to be extra arty. I have no idea. At PodCon last weekend, I listened to a couple of live episodes of shows, but then I also listened to some episodes while I was in my hostel. The first of which being What Should I Read Next, which makes a lot of sense to talk about on this channel. This is a podcast in which people call in and tell the host about 3 books they like and 1 book they didn't, and the host will give them 3 reading recommendations. I listened to the very first episode and I listened to the most recent episode, and then I actually found out after all of this that my friend is actually the executive producer of this podcast, so that's cool. I really enjoy this format, and obviously if you're looking for things to read, if the person is talking about books that you really like, you're probably going to like whatever the host recommends. The other podcast I listened to this week was the Anthropocene Reviewed. I've listened to episodes before and I've talked about it before, but these episodes are delightful. In these episodes, John Green talks about 2 different things and basically rates them on a 5-star scale, and in between there's always an ad, which never feels like an ad until it gets to the ad part. It's really well done. In fact, he did a live taping at PodCon and the entire audience was just howling with laughter over the advertisement. If you're a fan of a deep dive into completely random subjects and just beautiful writing, this is a podcast for you. The book I listened to this week was Broken Things by Lauren Oliver. Now, it's funny because I've only ever listened to Lauren Oliver's books, even though I have a physical copy of this one that I got at BookNet Fest. And a lot of the reason for that is because the first time I ever read one of her books, it was an audiobook, and then I realized that the voice on the audiobook was Sarah Drew, who is on Grey's Anatomy. I really like her voice. She was one of the people narrating this book. There were 3. This book is about a couple of best friends whose other best friend 5 years previously was murdered. When that happened, people thought that they did it, but they didn't. It doesn't matter that they didn't actually do it. The small town they live in has decided that they were the killers and they just went free, so they've been treating them like crap ever since. One of them has been in and out of rehab. The other has been homeschooling. However, her mom is a major hoarder and she's having to deal with that situation because their house is completely full of stuff and now she has to empty it. Since this murder was never solved and Mia actually turns up a piece of evidence, it's time for them to look into who killed their best friend. This one was twisty, this one was turny. I enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed listening to it because, again, Sarah Drew, but also different accents for different characters. And the 2 women who were doing the narration for the 2 main characters worked really well together. So Sarah Drew's character, Bryn, had more of a harsh voice, and then when the other narrator was narrating that character, she would also kind of do a similar voice. I appreciated this. In addition, this book is a bookish book because the reason why all of these 3 girls were friends in the first place was this very, very obscure book, which also led into how their friend died. You should know by now that I love me a bookish book, so obviously I was all over this. And if you can think of any other thrillers that are also bookish books, please let me know because I would love to read them. I have to get back to my readathon now. I will have a reading vlog of that up as soon as physically possible. But yeah, I really need to finish the last 5 hours of my reading, so sorry that this was a little bit shorter than usual and a little bit more compact and I didn't actually write out any of my thoughts ahead of time. But the one thing I wanted to say is, last week I said this. I also wanted to make sure that I had finished this one before I went to PodCon on the off chance that I run into him because he'll be there. He's a founding member of PodCon. That won't happen, but I always like to be able to say that, oh yes, I have finished reading that book that you just wrote. I really enjoyed it. And it turns out I actually did run into Joseph Fink and I did tell him I really liked his book, so just wanted to update you on that. It was nice. It was just in the hallway. I just said I liked his thing. I didn't stop him for a picture because I know he has anxiety and that's not what I wanted from him. I just wanted to tell him I liked his thing. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye.